Thanks for letting me come and insert myself into your program. When I knew that the LEP conference was going on, I was sort of feeling I ought to be there, seeing so many familiar faces and friends around the room. And the reason that I was so keen to come is that I wanted to say a huge thank you for everything that you have done right across the country during the years past. We've come a long way since the invitation was first issued to businesses and local councils to come together and propose a different way of working. And there have been some fantastic successes during that time. And I think it is a symptom of success that so many of my colleagues are edging for an invitation to speak here today. I think they, not all of them get the chance to speak up here, but nevertheless they have been with you and will be with you later in the day. It has been 5 years. 5 years has gone very quickly. 5 years is half a decade of innovation I think you've brought to the scene, and half a decade of growth in your local economies. And 5 years I think is a good point to reflect on the best of what you have achieved. Now I'm very conscious that all of the chairs of the LEPs, most of whom are here today, do this in your spare time. It's always been a source of wonderment to me just how much you are able to commit alongside doing the day job. And I just want to put on record, because sometimes I think this is assumed rather than always acknowledged, that the contribution you make, not just to your local communities, but to the prosperity of the nation, is absolutely invaluable. And all of those meetings, all of those difficult conversations, all of those challenge sessions that we've been through, which I don't know whether that was what Anne had in mind when she talks about challenging behavior. When my children are accused of challenging behavior, this suggests that they should do something about it. But this is something that we've been through, and I think it's helped shape the strong proposals that you've put in place. And coming out of a budget that announced new devolution deals in East Anglia and the west of England and Greater Lincolnshire, with the local growth fund secured, I think it's a good time for us to think about what we should aim for in the future. So the first thing is to celebrate the successes right across the country. And the local growth fund in particular, which couldn't have happened without the LEPs, has been a great success. I've just had the great pleasure of signing off the allocations for the year ahead. And more than 160 projects had started by the end of the last year alone. Just to mention one that I visited last week, I went to Eastleigh College in Hampshire, expanding new buildings thanks to the growth deal, £9 million of funding through the Solent LEP. By 2021, Eastleigh College will train 1,250 new apprentices, all making a big contribution to the local economy, and all themselves having a great prospect of a fantastic career ahead of them, all because of that growth deal. And what these examples make plain, and it struck me when I was down in Eastleigh very recently, is that growth is only ever local. The national GDP figures, of course, are aggregates. When they're reported on the news and in the budget, we see the national totals. But in that sense, they miss the point, because the aggregate only exists because specific people make specific choices in specific locations, such as that decision to invest in apprenticeships and in new facilities at Eastleigh College. And that's why you, as the LEPs, I think, form a fundamental difference to the way things have done before. You're not in existence to implement my national policy on jobs and growth, or that of the Chancellor or the Prime Minister. You and the huge numbers of different decisions you make during the course of each year, you are the policy, and the jobs come from the impact of those decisions on your communities, not on the basis of central pushing of buttons here in Whitehall causing things to happen. We put it in your hands. And to slightly paraphrase William Blake, general good is the plea of the scoundrel, hypocrite and flatterer. For art and science, and I think in our case economic growth, cannot exist but in minutely organised particulars. All growth is local and particular. And it's in the recognition of, in that case, the Solent LEPs aim to have more apprentices and more educated young people in general, that we need, and we've seen now, that new investment in that college in particular. All of the different growth deals up and down the country have emphasized the particular investments in particular places, in particular firms, in particular colleges, adjusted to the particular needs of every place in the country. And all that is growth and all that is local come together nationwide, it seems to me, in these minutely organized particulars, and they translate into an increase in our national prosperity. It was the recognition of the particular that led us to the creation of the LEPs at the start of the previous Parliament. After 1 year of local growth funding, we are seeing the positive impacts across the country underlying the hugely important role that you play. Now, the mission of the LEPs and the Local Growth Fund is central to our plan to rebalance the economy from the public to the private sector-led growth, and also to play an important role in refashioning local government from rather than just being on the delivery of what used to be called municipal services, rather seeing their role, as the best councils have for some years now, as one of the principal means in which you can create an environment that is good for growth and is good for business. Because just as a country can be well-run or badly run, just as it can be inviting to business or it can put barriers in the way of successful and expanding businesses, so can local places and local leadership. We're seeing progress, I think, on this front. In the year to last December, while public sector employment fell by 40,000, private sector employment increased by 519,000. More than 12 times as many private jobs were gained as public sector jobs were lost. Private sector employment is at a historic high. And in terms of reducing the various divides that have existed in the past, you only need to note that more jobs were created in Yorkshire than in the whole of France in the early years of the previous Parliament. These economic successes are achieved in part by the reinvigoration of local democracy. And part of the programme of growth deals has been to devolve decisions that were previously taken in Whitehall and to be put in the hands of local people. And when we embarked on this revolution, I don't think there was a universal appreciation that we're as much driven by the desire for local growth as by a desire to spread power, important though that is. If all growth were in the southeast, then of course we could never be the one-nation society that we need to be. That much is obvious. But the specific policy needed to spark new jobs, new skills, better transport, and so on, in one place in the country won't necessarily be what is needed in another place in the country. Therefore, local decision-making has to be vital. And equally, it seems to me, that without local growth, then pursuing devolved political power is going to be frustrated, because you need to have a growing economy so that local influence can be exercised over an increasingly buoyant local economy. And so that is why we are making another big change during the first year of this Parliament that's been committed to. And that is for local authorities to be able to retain not 50%, but 100% of the business rates that are collected. So every penny that is collected by local government stays with local government. And what we are doing and what we've announced in recent days, starting in London, in Greater Manchester, and the Liverpool City region, and in East Anglia under the New Deal, we're pushing ahead even earlier with 100% business rate retention in those places that have made an ambitious case to go further and faster. Now, we shouldn't underestimate just how dramatic a change this is. At the beginning of the previous Parliament, nearly 80% of council spending came from grant from central government. With our changes, by the end of this Parliament, local councils will keep 100% of the income that they collect. I've challenged the councils to produce proposals for the nationwide implementation of the business rates retention work, to suggest a mechanism by which areas that are surging ahead can help those that lag behind. And I invite LEPs to participate in that same challenge, to be the catalysts of change, to feed in your perspective of what you need to be able to drive even stronger growth locally. You already have influence over the decisions made by local authorities. Your influence everywhere I go across the country is tangible. When it comes to economic decision-making, consulting and involving the LEPs is absolutely the way decisions are now taken over policy. And we want businesses and you as their representatives to be making decisions for the whole area. And that's why it's been important from the outset that all LEPs are chaired by a figure from the business community. And it's why I'm particularly pleased that in the discussion of devolution, that it is very often the case that in the most ambitious and successful proposals, the local enterprise partnership is one of the biggest drivers of change, sitting down and working with local councils to drive forward the content of the devolution deal. Such is the case with Greater Lincolnshire. Ursula Leadbetter has been a very important force in that. And I think if you look around the country at some of the most ambitious deals that we've done, they've typically involved the LEP pushing for a good and ambitious deal, sitting down and working very closely with the local authorities. Whether it's Colin Skellett and James Newman, both recently stepped down from their roles as chair, respectively, of the West of England and Sheffield LEPs. And I want to put on record my gratitude for the fantastic work that they did. The deals that have been struck they've been absolutely instrumental in forging, and I'm sure their successors will be in implementing. And without being invidious, right around the country, whether it's Robert Huff in Liverpool, Andy Street in the West Midlands, Gary Jeffreys now helping with the proposed New Deal in Hampshire and Solent. These are people who are using their position as chair of the LEP very much to bring people together and to forge these new relationships. So I think this is an emerging big opportunity for LEPs. I want you to be confident in bringing council leaders together. Sometimes the administrative boundaries do leave an inherited set of tensions and sometimes rivalries. But your position as business leaders of the LEPs allows you to get in there and to forge a consensus. And as I say, the best ones are those that join in, take a positive view, and help bring people together rather than stand on the sidelines and don't immerse themselves in getting positive solutions. And so I expect to see that the role of the LEPs as we pursue these ambitious devolution deals, which I expect to cover large parts of the country during the next couple of years ahead, I would like to see local enterprise partnerships playing a very influential role in promoting that. Another big chance for you to use your leadership to craft your area for the better, and I hope you'll grab that chance. Now, I know that I was billed as making a big, significant announcement today, which is always a tough act to live up to. But actually, it's something that I hope that you would expect me to make, because it's always a good principle that you should have no surprises, but actually you should expect successful programs to be backed. And so what I want to announce is that having secured the money in the budget last week for a further round of local growth deals, 1.8 billion of that for the next round. I want to announce that today we are open for business, and the competition is on to go through the next phase of local growth deals, and for you to all go back and prepare your submissions to that. With regard to the process for applying for the growth deals and putting together your propositions, I know there are sometimes calls to have a template to follow. I'm always very resistant to templates. I remember during the early days of devolution, when I would go and say that we want to do things differently, people would say, well, that's all very well, but just tell us what you want us to do, and then we will write it down, send it to you, and then you can approve it, and that'll be simpler all round. But that's not the best way to proceed. I think it is important that we have your initiative and your creativity, and that you should put your ideas forward directly. So there's no template, and there will be no template. It will be a competitive activity. We've got a huge sum of money in the scheme of things, nearly £2 billion. But I would hope and expect that the ideas and the proposals and the projects in this room would be way in excess of that, so that we are in a position, the happy position of being able to choose between very strong proposals locally. And again, as with previous rounds of the Local Growth Fund, where you can demonstrate that the use of the devolved funds from central government can bring in funds from the private sector and from other groups, perhaps universities and colleges and local authorities. So much the better to drive and leverage that value for money that we want to see. So it is very much over to you. The starting gun has been fired. I want to make an announcement of the allocations from the Local Growth Fund by the autumn of this year, probably around the time of the autumn statement. So I'll write to you in the next few days to give you the deadlines to meet. But I would look to prepare your proposals to be with us certainly by the summer break, so that we have the chance to have those challenge sessions, be able to do the due diligence, be able to have the conversations just as we did before, visiting you right around the country, having you in to make sure that we get the best possible proposals approved. Your proposal will obviously benefit should it demonstrate how it fits with the priorities that we all have on growth, on skills, on housing, very important challenge facing us all. And I think it's also right that in this age of devolution, that those proposals that resonate and are aligned with the major combined authorities that either exist or are being created through these devolution deals clearly offer particular advantages. But also you need to look at what might be called the edge effects. No geography is entirely self-contained, and you know that your connections between each other and your neighbours need to be covered and need to be addressed. Roads don't recognize boundaries. Working with your neighbouring LEPs where it makes sense to do so will be very important. So, ladies and gentlemen, I think 5 years into an increasingly devolved, increasingly decentralized world of local government and enterprise gives another big opportunity for LEPs that have been successful over the past 5 years to become even more successful and even more influential during the period ahead. The journey is far from over. I think when we look back, we'll see the last 5 years as taking the initial steps away from a world that had become far too centralized, far too dominated by this part of London in particular. So I think there's never been a more important time for you to be doing what you're doing, whether as the chairs of LEPs or people, whether from local authorities or the staff of LEPs that work with them, to turn the potential for local growth into a reality. To ask whether there is a skills gap in your area, and if so, over what types of skills and how can employers' views be represented in that. How can new housing be delivered? What role can the LEP play in that? What about the transport budgets that increasingly through these devolution deals we're devolving? How can they be organised to give the best possible impact? So what Blake called the minutely organised particulars of specifically local plans for growth, they are in your hands increasingly. There will be more budgets in your hands, not just from the Local Growth Fund, but from the devolved funds that are currently locked up in Whitehall, but we are absolutely determined to devolve to all parts of the country. You have been absolutely indispensable to the work that we've done together to revive the economy over the last 5 years. It couldn't happen without the resurgence of the local economies in every part of the country. You'll be absolutely essential in the years ahead. I've enjoyed from the very first moment the partnership that we've established and the good company that we've had. I hope you'll bear with me during the challenge sessions to come. They will be, the more competitive they are and the more ambitious your bids, the more challenging those challenge sessions will be. But through it all, we were able to not only fund and devolve some very important projects and areas of public policy, but we were able to convince even the doubters in Whitehall that this is a much better way to proceed than have all decisions taken centrally, whether by ministers or by officials in this part of the world. The momentum is now with us, and I look forward, especially through the growth deals to come, to continuing that for the rest of this Parliament. Thank you very much indeed.
You stay there, and I'll do the questions. Look, colleagues, so the momentum is with us. Thanks for the celebration of what we've achieved. Thanks for the affirmation of our roles. But actually, thanks for the huge encouragement to keep on track with this transformational project. So I'm going to look around and take 3 questions. And you do need to have the mic in front of you. Believe me, I was a teacher. We want everybody to hear. I want to be able to see you. So stick your hand up very high so that the people with roving mics can get to you, and we'll take 3 questions. So, looking around, where are they coming from?
There's one over there.
Right, one over there, number 1 over there, number 2.
There's Jim over there.
Jim, number 2. Number 3. Don't miss your opportunity. And 3 there. Fantastic. Okay, so number 1, I think it's Mark, isn't it?
It is. Thank you, Secretary of State. Thank you for joining us today. It's Mark Reeve here, Chairman of Greater Cambridge, Greater Peterborough.
Where is he?
I just wanted to see sort of further reassurance from you in the sort of post-devolutionary model, particularly the governance model that relates to the mayoral approach, that the business influence and its ability to be involved in those budgets.
Right in the corner.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Actually,
can't see you in the blue.
Well.
Sorry, yes.
Yeah, come on.
Is that better?
Sorry.
Sorry, I am in the corner. Not of my choosing. So, Secretary of State, the question is around the post-devolutionary position, particularly under the mayoral governance model, and how effective businesses can be through the LEPs in working with local authority colleagues on the budgets you refer to, the devolved budgets, because most of these models put a significant amount of power back to the local authorities in terms of their sheer numbers versus the LEP voice.
Okay, thank you. And then Councillor Harker. Yeah.
Thank you. It's Jim Harker, leader of Northampton County Council, and it's really welcome news, the £1.8 billion, and that's really vital on the strategic level. But there is another level, I suggest, that LEPs are famous for working at. And we heard that from Chris Walker this morning, which is very much the local level. And that's where I'm very proud that Northamptonshire County Council, I'd urge other local authorities to invest in and trust their LEPs, because we put £2 million a year into Northamptonshire Enterprise Partnership for developing a scheme called Invest and Invent, where we provided small-scale sums, £40,000, £50,000, to help new, small businesses develop, recruit, expand. And they have been immensely successful. We heard that this morning from Chris. What I would like to suggest is that times are hard in local authorities now. We haven't got that sort of cash easily available. But we need to find other ways of working with our LEPs to fund them and help them provide the services that are needed locally, especially for SMEs. Northants is 85% SMEs. Nearly all of our wealth and prosperity and jobs come from their success. Secretary of State, I'm wondering from your 1.8 billion, I guess that's not available for that sort of thing, but maybe in the future there are ways that government can work with local authorities to help local authorities invest and trust in their LEPs.
Okay, thanks, Jim. And the final one?
Thank you. Paddy Bradley from Swindon and Wiltshire, LEP. It's to do with the post-16 area reviews. Nicky Morgan said last night at the dinner about LEPs playing a leading role in the post-16 area reviews, and with the announcement of the LGF funding, with decisions made by the autumn statement and some areas still being involved in post-16 area reviews during that period. So you've got practical decisions about how decisions can be made about investments in that skills area when the area reviews aren't complete.
Very good. Okay, let me take the points in turn. First of all, Mark's point on devolution deals and mayoral devolution deals. Listen, there's tremendous momentum on this at the moment. We've announced a number of devolution deals at the budget. There are many more in the pipeline, and I think it's not just by the end of this Parliament. I think very quickly you will see a model of mayoral combined authorities in all parts of the country with substantial powers and budgets devolved to them. And I think this is an opportunity for the LEPs. I think the best LEPs actually play a driving force in that. So if I think of, I mentioned Andy Street in the West Midlands and Colin in the west of England and Gary Jeffreys in the Solent, and Ursula in Lincolnshire, where leaders, whether chairs or chief executives, have a positive agenda and use their skills to bring people together, to forge alliances and to generate a positive, optimistic case, then the experience is that they will succeed, they will help their local economy, and they will drive it forward. But not all LEPs are the same, and I think as we move on over the next 5 years, I think we will see the most influential LEPs being very influential in what are deals between the government, the local authorities, and the local communities, and they can help shape that. But I think it would be a shame if any local enterprise partnership was left out, was on the sidelines, because there is a big opportunity to shape those deals. When it comes to Jim's point about investing further beyond the 1.8 billion that is available through the local growth fund, of course I recognise that many local authorities and many local businesses put money into the LEP, into the running of the LEP. We made, my colleague James Wharton made a further announcement this morning about some core funding from government there. But what I would say is that one of the big arguments for 100% business rate retention was to put into the hands of local councils in particular more of the control over the resources that actually businesses create. I've always thought it was a ludicrous situation that until very recently, every penny of the business rates that were collected by local councils was shipped off to the Treasury with nothing left locally. It was extraordinary. I remember when I was a local councillor here in the city of Westminster, responsible for major streets like Oxford Street, one of the most important shopping streets in the nation. And actually the truth was that it was, the more successful Oxford Street was, the worse it was financially for the council. Because the more footfall there was, the more street cleansing you needed, the more kind of street patrols you needed, and all the rest of it. And yet there wasn't a single penny in business rate revenue that came from its success. Now, well-run and responsible councils will always recognise that you've got a responsibility to promote your local economy, and we did that. But how much better that actually every penny of an increase in business rates can be reinvested locally, which gives the opportunity for the kinds of investments that I think Jim refers to, investments that are truly that they are payments in order to grow the revenue that comes out of it. That previously hasn't really been available to local authorities, and I'm very much determined that it should be. The point about the post-16 area reviews and education policy through the growth deals, I think this is one of the biggest opportunities for the local enterprise partnerships. We know that some of the most successful deals that we've done have placed skills very much at the centre of the deals. If I think of the deal that we did with Sheffield, for example, very much centred on skills. I think there is an increasing recognition, in fact an enthusiasm on the part of my colleagues in government that having an approach that is more devolved and gives a greater role for local businesses to shape the kind of skills that young people and older people that it might be retraining are having is very important. Now, Nikki, I was at Cabinet with her this morning and we were talking about this. I will make sure that as we consider the proposals in the growth deals, that Nikki will be involved in those conversations. So if there are particular circumstances in particular places that we want to reflect when we make the evaluations, we can do that. I think it's very important that we should do so. Let me just end before you go back to your program, but just by saying that the meeting that I've just come from was one in which perhaps your ears should have been burning, because I met with a delegation from China, a very senior delegation from China, who had a summit at Lancaster House. And the reason that they have come this week is to study the policies that you in this room embody, which is the devolution of decision-making and funds that were previously in central government, empowering enterprise to have a greater influence over those decisions, and a recognition that joining up some of the municipalities and some of the towns and cities in China so that they're better connected. These are at the heart of their agenda. And it was a source of great pride to me, I must say, that such a senior delegation would come in 2016 of all the countries in the world to the United Kingdom to share their experience, but also learn from our experience as to what we have done differently over the last few years. And the truth is that our experience is your experience. It's all of the hard work and painstaking efforts that you've put in to your local communities, for which I'm very grateful. And I just want you to know just how widely this is recognised, not just in this country, but increasingly in all corners of the world. Thank you very much indeed.